Hey everybody, welcome to RedZone. Shaun and Mike here, and my son Carter. He's about to turn 5 this year.
And he's not really this tall. He's on a...
No, he's on a...
Well, we're not really this tall.
Yeah.
We are this tall. We're not.
This is our ACC predictions for 2019. We're going to talk quickly about the two divisions, about the teams, and then we'll give our predictions. And we're going to ask Carter who he thinks, not yet, we'll ask him who he thinks he's going to win. So let's first talk about the Atlantic Division. Clearly, the favorite in the Atlantic's Clemson. I mean, clearly. After that, you have, Syracuse is going to be back, going to be good. NC State might be able to contend a little bit. You have, Florida State has Alex Hornibrook, who transferred from Wisconsin. They had to kick their quarterback, DeAndre Francois, off the team in February.
Yeah.
Then you have Boston College, Wake Forest, Louisville. Louisville has been struggling ever since they lost, can't even remember his name now. He's the Heisman winner a few years back. Bridgewater.
No.
Teddy Bridgewater? No.
No.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. He doesn't play there anymore. So
he's with the Ravens now. Why do we forget names all the time?
I don't know. But
That's what happens in your 30s.
Yeah, exactly. So really, I mean, I just don't think after Clemson, I mean, it's kind of a toss-up around the Jackson, yeah. Okay.
Can't remember.
Anyway, so that's the Atlantic. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about the Atlantic just because of Clemson.
Here's the thing. Clemson, yes, is the odds-on favorite for the Coastal and
for the Atlantic.
For the Atlantic, sorry.
Yeah.
But Syracuse they're at the Carrier Dome again this year, and we saw what happened last time they were at the Carrier Dome. You've got a rising star quarterback in Tommy DeVito. And then Syracuse as a team, they're projected to be the number 2 team in that conference. So you could have a game. I don't think that Clemson overlooks this one, but Syracuse won 10 games last year.
Right.
They're coming off a really good season with some confidence, and so they could push Clemson. I don't know that they beat them because I think that Trevor Lawrence is just. I mean, the kid is like, it's like those old 80s movies where you've got Dolph Lundgren or Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Sylvester Stallone.
And they're just, I mean, he's just a robot. I mean, the kid just looks like he makes the best plays possible. Yeah. Then you have Travis Etienne. You're returning the some of the best parts except for Hunter Renfrow, who as a 50-year senior finally gets drafted. So, but then their defense only returns 4 starters. Xavier Thomas is a name to know. He'll be one of the best defensive ends in the country. But go back and look at Clemson's recruiting, and they're constantly at the top with defensive ends, defensive tackles. And they're scary again. I mean, it's just they should scare the entire ACC.
Yeah. And 2 years ago when Syracuse knocked off Clemson, Kelly Bryant was the quarterback, and he got hurt in that game. So that was everything went right for them that night. Yeah. And one thing that I will say, though, when you bring up the Carrier Dome, it's an interesting little fact that we pointed out a couple years ago. I don't know what the date is they play Clemson this year at the Carrier Dome, but there's no air conditioning in that building.
Right.
And so when you catch Syracuse in September, it's hot.
Media members hate it.
It's horrible. and it's just, so I don't know. I should have looked ahead to see when that game is, but if they catch Clemson early in the year, maybe they could knock them off again. It's possible, but I think hands down that it's, you got to think Clemson. Carter, who do you think wins the Atlantic?
Clemson.
I had to remind him. Okay. All right, so let's take a quick look at the Coastal.
Real quick, Florida State also, Willie Taggart hired Kendall Briles, if you remember him from Baylor, Art Briles' son. So we'll see what that air raid offense, that speed raid offense can kind of do. They always tend to, Art Briles always one of the fastest players possible, and then you can teach him everything else. I mean, there are plenty of wide receivers that would go try out for NFL teams from Baylor, and they would just not know how to play wide receiver because they literally just say run, curl in on a certain, and in 15 yards, 20 yards, and the quarterback will hit you. So we'll see. But I don't know that they have a quarterback that is able to run that offense right now.
Well, I mean,
Alex Hornibrook sure doesn't.
Hornibrook can't run an air raid.
And then Blackman, we'll see what he does. He's their best quarterback talent-wise. So we'll see. I mean, I don't think that I think Cam Akers will be one of the better running backs if they can block for him. That was a big, huge downside to them last year was their offensive line. They just, I mean, that kid, I had high hopes for him, but he would get stuck all the time because nobody's blocking for him. So I do think it is Clemson, then Syracuse, and then everybody else underneath. So that's how I think it shakes out.
So let's talk about the Coastal because that's probably going to be the most interesting division of the ACC this year. And there's talk about Virginia. There's talk about Virginia Tech. Miami's got their first-year coach, Manny Diaz, who has said they are a playoff team. I don't know where some of these coaches are coming up with this, but and then
they have to say
Pitt, Duke, North Carolina, Georgia Tech. But really, what it comes down to is there's probably 4 teams that could realistically win the Coastal, and that's Virginia Tech, Virginia, Miami, and Pitt, possibly. Virginia has to play a game at Pitt early in the season.
Pitt only returns 10 starters, and they lost 2 1,000-yard backs. So that's kind of difficult to replace that. That's why for me it's the 3 teams. Year 4 besides Pitt. So to me it's Virginia Tech, and Miami. Not in that order, but just.
And an interesting fact, if Virginia were to win the ACC Coastal this year, that's 7 different winners in 7 years in the Coastal. So, I mean, talk about parity. There's some parity there. I don't know how that's going to shake out. I don't know if I'm sold on Virginia yet, being that up there that far. But we'll have to see how it plays out. So, who do you have? Let's see who do you have as
in the Atlantic, Clemson at number 1, Syracuse at number 2. Which for the first part of my life, I lived in upstate New York, so I always pull for Syracuse. Yeah. We weren't by them, but they were probably the closest college that we would have rooted for had we stayed. So always kind of pull for them. At number 3, I've got Florida State. I do think that they're making changes to go in the right direction. We'll just see what they can do. Got to get an offensive line. Number 4, I have NC State. Always seem like a tough team. Boston College, another team that always seems pretty tough. I've got Boston College at number 5. I've got Wake Forest at number 6. And at number 7, I have Louisville. And then in the Coastal, I have Virginia Tech. I think Justin Fuentes is doing a phenomenal job there. At number 2, I have Miami. Only because I don't know quarterback-wise what they're going to do.
It's looking like Tate Martell from the former Ohio State.
Did he get his eligibility?
Yes, he was. Okay. He is declared eligible, and it's looking like he's going to be the starter.
Okay, well, then maybe those two can flip. I'm not 100% sure there. I know Miami will have a good defensive back unit returning. They always put an emphasis on turnovers, so they'll keep going with that. At number 3, I have Virginia. Then at number 4, I have Pitt. North Carolina at number 5. Duke at number 6. And Georgia Tech at number 7. North Carolina with Mac Brown, I don't think that getting in there 1 year is really gonna do much for them. But maybe in a couple of years, we'll see.
Okay, so this is the way I have it shaken out. In the Coastal Division, I have Virginia Tech at number 1, Virginia at number 2, Miami at number 3, Pitt at 4. I have Duke at 5, North Carolina at 6, and Georgia Tech at 7. I just think it's Virginia Tech's year to take it. I don't think Virginia's there yet. So, and I don't think Miami. I don't think they can contend this year. I mean, they're going to need another year, I think. In the Atlantic Division, of course, it's Clemson. I have NC State at number 2. I think they're going to shock everybody. I think they're going to be really good this year. Syracuse at 3, Florida State at 4. I'm not sold on Florida State. there's way too many problems going on down there right now. Boston College at 5. They play Kansas this year, which I think Kansas will win that game. And then you have Wake Forest and Louisville. So that's how I have the ACC shaken out. Ultimately, Virginia Tech versus Clemson in their ACC title game. Carter, who do you think wins, Virginia Tech or Clemson?
Today's winner is Virginia Tech.
You think Virginia Tech wins the ACC?
Uh-huh.
Well, it's going to happen because Carter predicted it. So,
Okay.
all right, I guess Virginia Tech.
We'll see, bud.
We'll see if they can knock off Clemson. So, anyway, so that's our predictions for the ACC for 2019. Please like our videos. Please subscribe. Follow us on Twitter. And then comment. We want to see your comments. We'll try to respond to as many as possible. So
we'll see you about a week before, maybe 2 weeks. I'm sure we'll probably do predictions 2 weeks before because there's those first few games. 2 games on
August 24th. Miami, Florida, which is huge, and then Arizona, Hawaii. So we'll have to do picks the week before.
We'll do those games, and then we'll get into the. So we'll do week 0, and then we'll do week 1.
Yeah.
Right before week 1.
Carter, do you have anything to say?
Bummer Shooner.
I hope you liked this video and subscribe if you go Bucks. And if you missed to pause this video, pause it.
Okay, that's good advice. All right, enjoy college football season, and maybe you'll see Carter back again in some of our predictions. We'll see you later.